Good evening and welcome to the virtual town hall meeting sponsored by the Social Action Committee of the Phi Beta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I'm Rafael Matas, the Director of Social Action for the chapter. We're very excited to present to you a topic which is Veterans Matter, focusing on different issues affecting the veterans in the Los Angeles community. So first, I would like to bring up our chapter president, Brother Gary Hogans.
Good evening, distinguished panel and guests. I am Brother Gary Hogans, the president of the Phi Beta Sigma chapter here in Los Angeles, which is the Los Angeles Alumni chapter. And I'm just very, very excited about what we're going to have before us tonight. But there's no fitting way than to start off a program like this than in prayer. So I'd like to introduce Brother Alonzo Bragg, if you would open this program up with prayer, please.
Greetings to all of our brothers, and particularly those in your various leadership offices. I'm Alonzo Braggs, United States Army veteran of 20 years, and I proudly serve both home and abroad and in combat. I'm delighted for this privilege to serve with Phi Beta Sigma and to be able to offer our opening invocation. Will you pray with me? Kind and gracious Father, privilege us now with your presence, the presence that has the promised peace, which will keep both our hearts and our minds, the presence that will give us strength for the journey, the presence that will help us be ushered from our various challenges to safe ports of refuge and reassurance and comfort. And as we engage this town hall, may we be the better because we have spent time with you and because of how you have worked through our brethren. In your name we pray and trust you for the same. Amen.
Thank you so much, Brother Braggs, for that. Well, now it gives me great honor and privilege to introduce our moderator for this evening's discussion, and that's Brother Chris Ray. Brother Chris V. Ray is a native of St. Thomas of the U.S. Virgin Islands, but spent his formidable years in Spring Lake, North Carolina. He is a former track and field All-American and attended East Carolina University on a full athletic scholarship. In the fall of 1996, he joined Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated through the Xi Nu chapter. As a student leader, he was known for taking the initiative of addressing racial inequality on campus. He was often recognized by university leaders for working to make the campus a more open and diverse epicenter of learning. Brother Ray enlisted into the U.S. Army as a computer information technology analyst. After 2 short years, he was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Signal Corps through the U.S. Army Officer Candidate School. Thereafter, he saw deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. His service and leadership in the armed forces earned him numerous military awards and accolades, including the Bronze Star and the Emeritus Service Medal. After being honorably discharged from the U.S. Army, Brother Ray begins his studies at William and Mary School of Law, the nation's oldest law school. And upon graduation, he worked for the U.S. Department of Defense, the DoD, writing cybersecurity policy for the nation to help address the global threat of cyber attacks on America. In 2008, Brother Ray was elected as the youngest member of the United States Electoral College to officially cast the ballot to elect the President and Vice President of the United States. In 2011, Brother Ray was elected as the youngest mayor of the city of Spring Lake, North Carolina, where he went on to serve 3 terms. And currently, Brother Ray serves Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated as our international first vice president. So without further ado, Brother Ray.
Hey, Brother Ray, can you hear me okay? It seems like you are muted, and we want to make sure that we can hear your sound. Let's see. I'm going to test something really quickly, but we shall be right back. Hold on, everyone. Appreciate your patience. Brother Ray, can you hear me now? I cannot hear you. Let's bring other folks on to test 1 second. All right. I'm going to hide you for 1 second, Brother Ray, and bring on one other folks. Brother Tucker, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got your sound great and going well.
Okay.
All right. What I'm going to do is bring everyone on camera. Brother Ray, if you can refresh your screen, we may be able to um, get your sound back as well.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Theo, for the email. I got it and I logged on. So that was good work there, sir.
Appreciate that. And we're going to bring everybody on, and we're still live now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, again, bring everyone back on screen.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear. Awesome.
All
I'm
right.
going to go ahead and bring everybody on, and we're going to get this thing going. All right. I'm going to go hide again.
So let me know when so do you just want me to go ahead on now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening again, everyone, and welcome to our Veteran Matters conversation, focus on veterans in Los Angeles. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but we think that we've got it worked out. Thank you to the members of Phi Beta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated for hosting this very important discussion. Tonight, I am joined by an esteemed panel of individuals who have shown a strong passion to addressing the issues impacting veterans, issues like homelessness, unemployment, and suicide. Today, now more than ever, we need leaders stepping up for veterans like they step up for us each and every day. So let us take an opportunity to introduce our veterans, introduce our panelists. First, we have Soror Sidney Kamlager. Senator Sidney Kamlager was recently sworn in to California's 30th Senate District. Prior to becoming Assemblywoman, Sidney was elected member of the LA Community College District Board of Trustees and served as District Director of the 30th Senate District under Holly J. Mitchell. Sidney has nurtured deep ties within the district and has a long history of serving his communities. She is the best prepared to step in and represent the district's constituents, 64% of whom she presently represents in the assembly. Born to biracial parents in Chicago, Sidney's exposure to politics was working with her grandmother in 1983 to help elect Harold Washington, the first African American mayor of Chicago and a brother of Phi Beta Sigma. Soror Kamlager came to Los Angeles to attend the University of Southern California as a political science major. While she was at USC, the 1992 Rodney King riots erupted. And that catalytic event motivated Sydney to work with Rebuild LA and the Los Angeles Festival, two nonprofit organizations that advance job creation and public arts programs to help restore the communities most affected by the riots. Early in her career, Sydney worked at the Social and Public Arts Resource Center in Venice, and then as an advocate for quality child care and early education at the nonprofit Crystal Stairs in Los Angeles. She worked as the district director for Holly Mitchell when Mitchell was first Assemblywoman and later Senator. In 2013, Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas appointed Sydney to the Los Angeles County Commission on Children and Families. Sydney was elected in 2015 to the Los Angeles Community College Board, where she fought to make higher education and career training affordable and accessible to everyone, with special focus on underserved communities and students who were previously in the foster care system or incarcerated. Sydney successfully ran for the state assembly in 2018. Sydney is a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. She lives in the Baldwin Hills community with her husband, local attorney Austin Dove, her stepchildren, dog Kush, and cat Kizzy White Paws. Our second panelist, Miss Maricela Segura. Did I say that properly? Did I pronounce that right? Segura. Oh, well, I know you're going to get me when we get your audio. She is the regional director of the Federal Trade Commission's Western Regional Los Angeles office. The Los Angeles office has successfully prosecuted a wide variety of consumer protection cases, including matters involving national advertising, telemarketing scams, mobile payment schemes, abusive debt collection, debt settlement frauds, truth in lending, act violations, and data protection and privacy issues. Maricela regularly speaks to consumer and business groups about the latest FTC guidance and law enforcement efforts. She's a senior fellow with the Partnership for Public Services Excellence in Government Programming, and received her law degree from USC and her undergraduate degree from UCLA. Our third panelist, Mr. Dennis Tucker. After retiring with 22 years of distinguished and meritorious service in the United States Army, or Dennis Tucker manages the day-to-day operation as the interim human resource director at Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority. He previously served Veterans Advisory Commission for Mark Ridley Thomas, supervisor in 2nd District, and is a mentor to young men and women in Army Reserve and National Guard units throughout Los Angeles County. Tucker formerly worked with the Workforce Service Branch of the Unemployment Development Department, where he initiated and maintained ongoing personal contacts with a variety of employers and engaging in advocacy efforts with hiring executives to increase employment opportunities for veterans, encouraging the hiring of disabled veterans, and generally assist veterans to gain and retain employment. Mr. Tucker earned his Master's of Science in Leadership and Management from the University of Laverne and his Bachelor's of Science in Human Resource Management from the University of Phoenix. He is also a graduate of Southern California Leadership Network, Leadership Los Angeles. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Hugh E. Crooks Jr. Mr. Crooks currently serves as the California Veterans Board's chair. Mr. Crooks served in combat as a rifleman and squad leader in the U.S. Army, War, 1967 to 1969 in Vietnam. He held multiple positions in numerous departments within Los Angeles County from 1964 until 2005. Those include Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department from 1969 to 1971 as a booking clerk, the County Safety Police Department, Protective Service Division from 1971 to 1996, where he attained the position of chief, the Natural History Museum from 96 to 2000 as the head of administrative and a facilities manager, and finally at the Register Record County Clerk as operations manager of human resources from 2000 to 2005. Mr. Crooks is a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and was state commander of the American Legion from 2011 to 2012. My, oh my, what a resume on all of you all. Thank you all for your service. Thank you for the work that you all are doing on behalf of veterans and all the individuals that look for and require your services and needs. So we're going to jump right in, because we have a lot of questions, and we know and we're excited that we're sure there'll be individuals that are going to probably want to ask some questions out there that are listening in with us today. And so I'm gonna initially start off with some of these questions. I'll call each and every one of you out. But of course, if there's something that any of you would like to add, please don't hesitate to jump in there. So, Senator, we're going to start with you. What are current veteran initiatives the state of California is currently working on?
Well, that is a great question, and I'm going to dive right into it and give everyone answers. But I just want to say thank you for the invitation to have this discussion about veterans. They are our heroes. They come from all of our communities, and they protect us and really serve our country in a way that makes us proud. My grandfather, who happened to be an Alpha, but was in the Army, and had stories to share about both the discrimination that he had to deal with, but also how proud it made him to be able to serve. The state of California is doing a lot to serve our veterans. Of course, we can always do more. We know that California is home to roughly 1.8 million veterans and over 200,000 active and reserve members of the armed forces. It is the highest number of our nation's veterans. We also know that in California, and especially in the county of Los Angeles, that suicide deaths during the past 5 years found that almost 6% could be confirmed as veterans who'd committed suicide. We know that 21 out of every 10,000 veterans in our United States today are unsheltered. And we know that there are high numbers of not only homelessness, but mental health anxieties and depression and PTSD. We know that our veterans face pressures on financial issues, with relationship problems, substance abuse, legal issues, physical disabilities, mental health disabilities, and employment issues. And so the state of California, I think, knows that. We have a few veterans that actually serve in the legislature and work to make sure that we are keeping our veterans front of mind. There are a few bills that are working their way through the legislature this year. One is AB 225, which actually would expand the duration of temporary licenses, professional licenses that are currently issued by licensing boards to spouses and to partners of active duty members of the military who are actively licensed in another state. And so we know that our members of military move from state to state, and so it is really important that they're able to be able to work and access the licenses that they have, the professional licenses that they have, regardless of the state that they're in. We know that California kind of lags with regards to this, and so that bill will work to accelerate those opportunities. There's another bill, AB 411, that would issue out $600 million in general obligation bonds to provide affordable housing under the Veterans Housing and Homelessness Prevention Bond Act of 2022. So we need to do more, and more when it comes to making sure that we are constructing and making available housing units for our veterans. There is another bill that would provide for partially disabled veterans to receive a prorated vehicle registration fee based on the disability rating that they have. There is another bill that would create a military suicide task force so that the state can develop a plan on how we are going to eliminate suicide deaths by military veterans. And then we have another bill that would increase access to free legal services for our military veterans. So a number of bills, a handful of bills that are working their way through the legislature that are really designed to target many of the issues that our veterans face.
All right, that was exciting. I mean, just I was trying to write some of them down because I mean that's exciting. That's to see the work that's being done by our legislators. I mean, we're dealing with economic issues in the household. We're dealing with housing initiatives. We're dealing with legal services. You're dealing with addressing suicide issues. I mean that is absolutely phenomenal, and I know that we're going to probably have some additional questions that are out there. So let me make sure I pronounce. I want give your name right. Maricela, did I
That's
say that right?
beautiful. Maricela Segura.
Maricela Segura. Oh, good. See that?
Segura. That means sure and
Segura.
secure in Spanish. I mean, I
Oh,
don't know.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So my grandfather's from Puerto Rico, so I
All
just want to make sure
right.
I said that properly. So so Maricela, what light can you shed on frauds and scams impacting our active duty service members and veterans? Because we know that we become easy targets for some of these organizations out there. So can you share with us what are some of the frauds and scams that are impacting them, and some stories that you may have around it?
Absolutely. And first, I just want to say I'm really gratified to be here. Thank you for facilitating this discussion. In addition to veterans in my own family that are near and dear to me, I work with Dr. Antonio Williams, who is a Phi Beta Sigma, and he is a current active military member. And so we work together. So any resources that I share today, we will be happy to share with your chapter by email in another form that would be easy to pass forward. So we share reports to the public about fraud. We do consumer protection work. And so some of the top fraud reports that have been submitted to us by veterans and active duty service members alike fall into the buckets of government imposter scams and then identity theft. So now, what is government imposter scams? Well, these are those fake IRS calls where you receive a call saying that you owe money to the IRS and you had better pay up immediately or you will be arrested. These are those fake Social Security Administration calls where you receive, often by robocall, a call where they say that your Social Security number has been suspended and because of suspicious activity that you need to press 1 to get to a live operator to deal with it. Once you press 1 and get connected, they will ask you to give them your Social Security number. So that's identity theft in the works. Or they will ask you to pay money to deal with the issue. So those are a couple flavors of government imposter scams. And that's one of the top areas of fraud reports. With COVID-19 in the pandemic, some of this imposter scam has moved over to meet the moment. So we have seen early on these fake government imposters offering vaccines and saying you can get a vaccine. And now vaccines are a little more open and available, but in the beginning they were not. And they would say you can get a vaccine or get front in the line or become part of this trial if you pay money. That is not true. That is fraud. The government is not going to ask you to pay to get vaccinated. Right now, with government relief coming, and we've had a couple of stages of government relief. Well, we see fraudsters impersonating the government and saying that they can give you government relief as part of this COVID-19 rescue package. Here's what we want veterans and active duty service members to know about these frauds alike. Government agencies are not going to call you and ask you for your Social Security number. They're not going to call you and ask you for your personal information. They just won't. Social Security Administration already has that information. IRS already has that information. It's improper for government agencies to ask you for that over the phone. Anyone who does is a fraudster. They're trying to engage in identity theft. Second, the government will not ask you to pay them so that you could get help. They're not going to do that. They're not going to ask you to pay to get vaccinated, to if your Social Security number was involved in fraud, they're not going to ask you to pay to repair it. If the third tip that this is a fraud, if someone's on the other line pressuring you to act and act now, which they often do, that's a red flag. Take a beat, take a moment, say, give me a callback number. I'll call you back. That usually will stop it right in its track. They'll click, hang up. How often have we had that experience? Who are you? What's your number? Click, because they know, because you're asking questions, you're not going to be an easy mark. So if you're still concerned that it's actually legit, call, check the actual websites, check the legit sources. On government relief scams specifically, again, I can't say this enough, don't pay anyone to get rescue, COVID relief or a check. That's going to often happen automatically through the IRS. Many of you have already received checks. For those of you who received checks, don't respond to anyone who tells you that your payment was too high, who tells you to send back cash to them because you were overpaid. That's a scam. A lot of times they'll say, pay it via gift card. So I'll just tell you, a surefire sign of a scam is when someone asks you to pay with a gift card. That is not legitimate. And that's true for any non-transferable, not like immediate form of payment, whether it's a MoneyGram or something like that. That's a sign of a scam. You're not dealing with a legit actor. And identity theft, just real quick, identity theft is another important area. The top complaint over the years from veterans and active duty service members is that someone opened a new credit card account in their name. The second is that someone applied for and received government benefits in their name. And so here's our tip on those kinds of scams. It is specifically with respect to unemployment benefit fraud, which right now is rampant since COVID-19 because people are receiving unemployment benefits more and more. We're seeing that fraud is just on the rise. So report it to the state agency responsible for handling the unemployment payment. For California, that would be the California Employment Development Department or edd.ca.gov. Report it to your former employer. When you talk to people about it and you report it, keep your case numbers. Write down who you talked to and when. It's often good, so that helps you to untangle what happened. So you can say you reported on X date. Protect your credit. Consider instituting a credit freeze. Now, we have a resource called identitytheft.gov where you can go and find the steps to go through to do things like put a credit freeze on your credit account. This is the best way to protect your credit. It's the best way to protect against people opening new accounts in your name. This will stop most access to your credit report. You can also consider instituting a fraud alert, which will make it a lot harder for somebody to open an account in your name. Again, if you think you're a victim of identity theft, you want to go to identitytheft.gov, and this will provide you with a step-by-step plan to stop the identity theft, like the damage in its tracks, and also to help you, give you tools to repair your credit and deal with the credit reporting agencies. I guess one last tip I would say is be proactive. Don't wait until you feel like you've been a victim of identity theft. You can receive your annual credit report and review that report. You're going to get it from all three credit reporting agencies. Like these are Experian, TransUnion. You need to get all three of them because they report different things. There are three different credit reporting agencies. They have sometimes different information. You can get your free annual credit report at annualcreditreport.com. Study it. If something looks suspicious, report it. Say, that's not my credit. If you don't recognize a transaction, you get started, go to identitytheft.gov and you get started on trying to take that off of your credit report. And that's something you should do. It's just sort of good housekeeping, something you should do on a regular basis. You can do it on a yearly basis. And for us, prevention's the best solution. We issue blogs on a regular basis about all this stuff, about unemployment fraud, about just the emergent scams. Recently, we did a blog post on these waiting package scams. You're getting texts that say your package is waiting with FedEx. Complete fraud. It has a link. If you click the link, it downloads malware. So I would say go to ftc.gov/subscribe if you're interested in getting these blog posts or seeing these reports of scams on the rise. And finally, I will say for military members, we have what's called militaryconsumer.gov. And that is a source not just for issues relating to consumer protection and frauds, but other resources for financial wellness for military members. And so I'll say that again, it's militaryconsumer.gov, and I'd be happy to hang back and answer any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I think the most important thing you said, which was that I'm going to take, is that if the government asks me for money, I should not send them the money to pay for a service. I think out of everything you said, I took that one away.
Good.
So if the government wants me to pay for something, I shouldn't be doing that because I don't want to give them my money anyway because they normally take my money. So, Mr. Tucker, please share an overview of the state of veterans during COVID-19's pandemic, because I know that you having an opportunity to work in the spaces that you are Share with us, just the state of veterans during this time period, during COVID, and how you've seen how it's impacted, especially from an employment standpoint.
Yeah. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Moderator, LT. You have so many titles. I don't know what to call you, but just really thanks. First, just let me mention, really want to say thank you to the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. Honorable mention to the program managers, Ron, Theo, Raphael, and Antonio for pulling this together. I'm super excited to be part of this panel. Honorable Senator Kamlager, Maricela, and Mr. Chair, just really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this panel today. Um, so I'm going to really start at a state level and just really provide some statistics as far as positive cases during COVID as it relates to veterans, and then bring it home here to LA County. So positive cases as of late within within the state of California, we're about 12,860 positive cases versus LA County positive cases for veterans is about 6,106 positive cases. Active cases on the state level, about 144 active cases. LA County has about 46 of those. And then obviously convalescent homes, it's important that I hit those numbers because the social distancing aspect is not there. And so the cases you see from a state level and a county level within a convalescent home as it relates to veterans, the state of California, we're about 12,528 cases. In a convalescent home in LA County, we're about 5,800 in LA County. And obviously, a terrible situation, COVID-19. Worst case scenario, known deaths, state level, we're about 558 when you talk about veterans that have been affected by COVID and passed away. And LA County, 244. And there's a couple reasons LA County is certainly high in numbers. As the senator alluded to, the state of California carries about 1.8 million veterans throughout the state. And that's, currently 200,000 veterans transition every year. And LA County and the state of California, they call home a record. And so LA County, having the largest county within the union, we certainly carry the highest number there. And so that's why you see maybe 50% of the known deaths you see are here in LA County. That's just a really tip of the iceberg. Interestingly enough, though, 90% of home residents and 68% of homes staff are fully vaccinated, and that is crucial when you talk about or 65 and older and veterans to that magnitude. And so we are certainly pushing the vaccination, folks. We want veterans to get vaccinated. I know the VA certainly is part of that solution as well. They just opened up the vaccination process to families and caregivers. And so before, not even long ago, about less than 30 days, that wasn't the case. And so they have had new changes, new legislation at the federal VA level to open up vaccination for COVID-19 to include not just the veteran service member, but also families and caregivers as well. So let me switch to employment, which is interesting because Department of Labor statistics really talks about the veteran unemployment rate, I should say, which was about 5.2% for veterans. And interestingly enough, it's down to 4.6% in the month of March versus those non-veterans for the month of March, which is about 6%. And so this has always been a thorn in everyone's side when you talk about successful transition from the military to civilian. And I know LT or Mr. Mayor, you are certainly aware of the pitfalls that veterans fall into and the obstacles that certainly can go alongside that when you transition from Lieutenant Ray or Sergeant First Class Tucker, and you put whatever you've done on a resume and submit that resume to an employer. So those are some of the things that we're looking to really fix. The veteran transition piece is a big thing, and you and I both know a man and a woman, a service member, certainly feels like he or she is taking care of their family if they have an employment opportunity waiting for them. That 9 to 5 continues when they drop those boots off and they put on those Oxford shoes and go to work. So we are certainly, just give you an example. I have the opportunity to run as an HR director the Veteran Hiring Initiative for the third largest transportation agency in the United States, LA Metro. And at the head of LA Metro is our CEO, Phil Washington. And he is a retired command sergeant's major with 24 years. And one of the things that he has charged me to do when I was hired, he raised the Federal Transportation Authority, FTA, 4%, and he made it 6% for LA Metro. So 6% of our actual annual hires has to be veterans and family and service members. And so I am charged to really recruit and retain veterans and families and and for their service, and certainly aligning those knowledge, skills, and abilities is something that is not an easy task, as you know. But LA Metro is one of the leading employers, in my opinion, that are a strong advocate for hiring service members and their families, and I get to spearhead that effort. So I'll just really kind of pause there. I wanted to give you some numbers, certainly related to the
Appreciate that.
COVID-19, but also on the employment piece as well.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate that. And it's great to first of all know, before you can address an issue, it's important to know where we are and where we stand. That's the key, in addressing where we have to go. Mr. Crooks,
Yes, sir.
at the end of the day, this is about advocacy. So, we've heard from the senator about the bills that are kind of winding its way through legislation right now. We've heard about the unemployment challenges that are out there for our veterans. We've also heard about scams that we know that is impacting the lives of our veterans. So now when we start talking about advocacy, what are some of the areas where advocacy is most needed for veterans in Los Angeles?
Okay, before I get started, I need to thank Phi Beta Sigma for the honor of being on this panel. I'm actually, as an old man, I'm like very, very, very impressed with all of you. I have the luxury of being on the government and on the private side. Whereas the American Legion, I'm still past department commander of the American Legion, as you said, so that I'm actually out there on the ground with the troops trying to deal with the people. The biggest advocacy that I see problem is education. That's going out there talking to veterans and trying to explain to them what their rights are. You'd be surprised how many veterans have never, ever, and I'm one of them, applied for put a claim in of what happened to them in the service. I went out not too long ago looking for homeless veterans. And by the way, there should never be homeless and veterans in the same sentence. That should never happen. And what I found was a lot of them have been taken off the streets, thank goodness. But you have the ones that I call the OTH, the other than honorable discharge people that don't fit anywhere, but they don't realize had they been educated on any number of programs, veteran service organizations that are now going out and fighting these other than honorable. Some of these people got discharged from the military because of don't ask, don't tell, right? Now we know that is no more. So what had happened to them can be fixed, but that is not anything that's happening, and they don't know. And then there's some of them being able to direct them to the VA for. I talked to one gentleman, and I am not going off the streets until God tells me. And as I talk to him more, I realize this he may have a slight mental problem. But how do I get him to go into and talk to somebody in the VA so they can eventually get him off the street? So it's a lot of education. Same thing with COVID. We talk about COVID. I hear you all talking about it, but the problem we have in South LA was we have a lot of not just Black but brown veterans that say, "I don't trust the government. I'm not getting a shot. I don't know what you're going to give me. I don't know what it's going to do to me." So it's go out there and explain to them. I said, "Listen, I got one. Do I look like there's anything wrong with me? Well, where did you get it? I got it the same place you did. So we actually convinced the VA to have in South LA at WCL LA a one of their centers to have uh, a center so they could actually we only got 50 people, but that's 50 more than we had before. And so the idea is to be able to not only get them there, but I'm trying to get also to work with the VA, which is federal government, and say, you know what, we just don't need people who are already in the system. I want those veterans that are not in the system to be able to come in and sign up and say, you know what, we need to get them in so they can get their and all the benefits that they're losing. There's state benefits, there's federal benefits. Most of these people have no idea what they're entitled to. It's not something we're giving them, it's what they're entitled to.
So what we're saying is that there's really a true education deficit, that continues to be out there, no matter how much opportunities and programs are out there. So, and I know we got about 15 more minutes before we have to wrap up. And so this will be a quick rapid fire question for each of you, and you all can think through it. But it'll be the same question for all of you, and I'll start with the senator. Um, when you think about an organization like Phi Beta Sigma, Zeta Phi Beta, what can we do? Because I don't want to leave here tonight, and we've gotten great information. I know now what we're doing in California, in the legislature. I know the challenge, who I need to call if there's scams that are going on. I know now about the numbers as it relates to COVID and unemployment. And then I now just heard from Mr. Crooks that this education deficit. So knowing an organization like Phi Beta Sigma, college educated men, individuals who are really roll up their sleeves, get into the communities, what can we do? And so this would be a question for each and every one of you as we try to close out tonight. What can we do, Senator?
I think activate your chapters, activate your networks. Your men that happen to be Phi Beta Sigma members. You probably also go to a church. You might even also be part of a book club or a golfing club. You might have some brothers that you hang out with when you're watching the games, or somebody's bear cave or man cave when you're running from the partner. Use all of those opportunities to talk about. Use all of those opportunities. I know, to talk about these kinds of issues. Men, there's still a lot of stigma attached to PTSD, substance abuse, challenges with relationships, challenges with health, and use all of the networking opportunities to talk about these things. We also kind of tend to shame veterans. We like to bring them out during Veterans Day, but we have a hard time talking about the challenges that they still face. And, veterans look very different than they did 40 or 50 years ago. We have women who are veterans. We have veterans who have children. So I just think it's really important for us to use all of our networking opportunities to talk about and to explore the issues around that veterans have and the needs. And you can do that by partnering with your Zetas, if you are part of Links or Boulay, Jack and Jill. The great thing about our African American communities is that we have so many linkages and opportunities to overlay and to interlock these kinds of issues together. There is nothing worse than feeling isolated or left alone, or feeling like you have no one to talk to about these issues or no place to go and learn more about them. So activate the chapters, brothers. Activate your chapters.
Maricela, what can we do? And you gave such great information about, especially with fraud and just what's happening to people out there. And some of it, even those who aren't veterans, but we know specifically as we talk about veterans, what can the men of Phi Beta Sigma do?
I'm just going to echo what Senator Kamlager just said. I mean, I think what you're doing now with your social action committee, I mean, that is a step in the right direction. We have these programs. I saw another program you all did maybe a month ago. I mean, these are very powerful programs, and blasting it live. I mean, we're all in different places, but we're together. And so you really have used the moment to do something great and reach a lot of people. So we have a campaign called Pass It On. There's taking the shame out of being a victim of fraud, for instance. If they hear it from you, if they hear a tip, hey, this is going around, it's catching people, there are these fake calls, pass it on. It's one thing for a lawyer like me to stand up and talk about it. It's another thing to hear it from a family member or a trusted source. And you carry a lot of credibility in your community. And so what I would say is, and I'm happy to share our resources and where you can subscribe to the blogs, blast it out to members, keep programs like this going where you could reach the public and let them know about frauds on the rise. I'll just share personally, my dad fell victim to one of these identity theft kind of frauds where someone posed as a family member that was stuck at the border of mine. I don't know how they had the details or what. They sent my dad running out the door. And I'm a consumer protection attorney. He didn't call me. He went straight to Western Union and sent the money to this fraudster. We got it back. I actually called Western. He told me later, but he felt so much shame about it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, if I wasn't, I need to talk to him more about what we're seeing. And this is what I do for a living. So I'll just share that. Just pass it on to your members. And I'm happy to share. And Dr. Antonio Williams will be happy to share all of our resources.
I just thought that was just so powerful. I mean, that part, the shaming part, when somebody gets fraud, I mean, you're right. Nobody wants to be like, I got duped. They got me. I don't want to be the got you guy in the circle, so I don't tell anyone. God, that is, but then that goes back to what the senator just stated, again, here, when we are just afraid to really, especially as men, have those kind of conversations. And so this is all building. This could be another conversation. Dennis, talk to me, Dennis. Before what can we do, Dennis? What can the men of Phi Beta Sigma do?
Well, I don't know if I can beat the honorable senator and Maricela, but I'll certainly just add my 2 cents to it. First of all, what Phi Beta Sigma is doing is leading and trailblazing. I'm going to say that, and the best form of flattery is imitation. And so you probably will see other fraternities and sororities do things to this magnitude. So kudos to what you want to do. But I was thinking I'm going to go 2 different directions of what Phi Beta Sigma can do. Women veterans. And shout out to, honorable mention goes out to the chair and Olivia Chavez Carroll and Colonel Cooper, who's probably listening right now. So I just wanted to mention they are working on the I Am Vanessa Guillen and Brandon Act. And for those folks that are listening right now, that is combating sexual harassment and assault in the military and holding leaders accountable. And so when you talk about efforts and initiatives that you can push and support, these are 2 initiatives that I'm pretty sure Calvet will certainly hear about. State of California will certainly hear about. But the Women Veteran Leadership Council, headed by the chair Olivia Chavez Carroll and the vice chair Colonel Cooper, they're certainly pushing that. Secondly, military spouses and caregivers. And listen, I'm going to be honest, and this is a hit on the city of LA. We ain't good at supporting caregivers, folks, and we got to get better. It's just not about the veteran, folks. This is a 360 holistic view. And I'll tell you, they are the true first responders. They know when something is wrong before we can admit it to ourselves as veterans. And guess what? Let alone tell someone else. So they are the ones that take care of us. Secondly, spouses and caregivers deserve that level of respect, because if I have retired out the military, guess what? My wife gets a certificate of retirement as well. So why don't we in LA County do better? Because we know better, folks. So do better. And they're the backbone of every single military service member. They manage the home when we're deployed, and they help us heal when we return. And finally, I got to say to you, Senator Kamlager, I like to mention that a child care provider that from Crystal Stairs. She just won the National Guard State of California Caregiver of the Year, Lauren Trustclair Duncan. She says to tell you hello, but certainly, they hold us accountable. And so we've been tasked to help with that transition. And I tell you, if Phi Beta Sigma can do anything, help with women veterans and help push the word for family, spouses, and caregivers.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I love that. I love how we tied that all together there. And I think that, I think that we're starting, I think that, the bill that the senator spoke about in the very beginning with
Yeah,
the licenses, with spouse, I think that's a step in the right direction. And I think that, as we continue to have leaders who that are addressing these issues together, hearing those suggestions, I know that she's going to do her part at her level. I know that you all continue to do your part at the local level to make it happen. And I'm going to leave the last word to our commander of the Legion. I'm going to leave the last few words to him, and then we're gonna close this out and land this plane. I got them in my ear telling me we gotta make it happen. So, Commander,
Okay, I don't have.
what are the
It's
good final veteran words you can give to us that we need to
it's
continue
really
to do?
hard to follow up what has been said. Just remember, when I said education, I meant things like telling these people that they're for free. There are veteran service organizations who pay veteran service officers to go and file claims for you. If someone wants to charge a veteran to file their claim, that's the wrong person to go for. There
yeah,
are so many people from the state of California that are qualified by the state to file their claim, and they adjudicate it if it's
Mm,
not enough. So if you don't educate, you're not going to know this. If
right,
they're not going to know
right,
this, and they'll
right.
say, "Oh, this guy over here wants to charge me $5,000." Well, why? When the American Legion, the VFW, AMVETS, and a lot of and the state of California has service officers that do it for free.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, well, so we have been educated by the commander in the very end, which is very important. When individuals, when veterans determine that it's time for them to go and get their benefits, they do seek out organizations or individuals, and there are some that do end up paying for the services. Once again, paying folks you don't have to. I tell you. Because why? Because the work has already been done
yeah.
at the state level to provide the resources for organizations to do it. We got to continue this conversation, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much for this amazing panel. Y'all have educated me. I know that you've educated our folks that have been tuning in. Thank you for the work and the services that you all are doing at each one of your levels. This is a great example of why it takes a village to be able to address the issues
Right.
that are impacting our communities. And so tonight, you all, as we address the issues of veterans. So God bless you all. Thank you so much. And thank you to the men of Phi Beta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the namesake chapter of our organization. Appreciate you all for stepping up to the plate and doing this work and educating the folks, not only of Los Angeles, but the folks of California and all the folks who've been tuning in around the world. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening. And see you all again on doing some kind of work for the community.